Hello, I'm State Senator John Kavanagh, and welcome to this week's edition of Kavanagh's Corner, my legislative video report to my constituents, and this is for the week of 3/13/23. Well, several of my bills passed out of the floor. The first one is SB 1041. That is a cybersecurity software appropriation to help upgrade our state computers to make them less vulnerable to cyber attacks that could conceivably steal valuable information that could be used against you in an identity theft. Most of the bills are over in the House and they're going through House committees. So in the House Military Affairs and Public Safety Committee, they passed out my SB 1047, interfering with law enforcement officers. This involves giving penalties, which currently don't exist, surprisingly, to people who walk past a police barricade or a police line that is keeping people out of a dangerous area or a crime scene. Currently, there's no penalty for people to walk past there and disturb the crime scene or expose themselves and the police to danger in a fire or explosion or bomb situation. This bill will make it a criminal trespass misdemeanor offense to do that. In addition, there's currently no law that stops somebody from walking right up to and standing next to a police officer engaged in a potentially violent encounter with a criminal or a suicidal person. Well, under this new law, an officer will be able to say, this is dangerous, get back 10 feet or 20 feet while I'm doing this. And if the person refuses, they're subject to a criminal trespassing arrest. Over in the House Natural Resources Committee, my SB 1010 personal flotation devices bill passed out. This bill basically says that children do not have to wear life vests if they're participating in training or participation in a school rowing crew event. Under current law, all children have to have life preservers, but you can't engage in competitive rowing with a life preserver on. So the people who run this, a national association, they said, could you change the law so that if it was one of these situations, and in the boat with the kids is a certified life saver, and next to the boat is a motorized boat with another life-saving certified person and rescue equipment. So these kids will be safer rowing on a lake than they would be in their own swimming pool at home. Again, just to allow these kids to do the sport. Bizarrely, every Democrat in the committee, without comment, voted against the bill. But fortunately, because we have a Republican majority, the bill passed out. Although I am a bit concerned about the bill when it gets to the governor's desk, with all of the Democrats bizarrely opposing such a reasonable bill. Moving over to the House Education Committee, my SB 1174 average daily membership student withdrawal bill passed out. This simply clarifies language about when is a student technically withdrawn from school. Basically, that's when the parent withdraws them, or if they're absent for 10 consecutive days without the parents notifying the school about what's going on. There was a wording problem which was withdrawing students who shouldn't have been, and we just straightened that out. Over in the House Government Committee, my SB 1021 Attorney General legal challenges will require the Arizona Attorney General to defend any state law that in federal court or state court is challenged on constitutional grounds. The Attorney General is, in fact, the state's attorney, and the job of the Attorney General is to defend the state in court. So a law passed by the legislature and signed by the governor needs to be defended. If the Attorney General doesn't do it, it could die for lack of a defense, which, by the way, is what happened to one of my bills last year when Attorney General Brnovich refused to defend it in federal court. Well, from now on, the AG will do his or her job. Finally, in the House Government Committee, SB 1270, Open Meetings Capacity. Several years ago, I attended a school board meeting in Scottsdale to protest with many parents their oppressive COVID mask requirements. Everyone knew it was going to be a big meeting because of the publicity and a prior meeting, but yet the Scottsdale School Board held it in a tiny room that meant most people couldn't get in. On top of that, it was scheduled for a 6 o'clock start. I got there at 5:30, only to be told that the room was already full. So under my new law, schools will not only have to tell you when schools and also any government agency will not only have to tell you when the meeting starts, but when they're going to open the door. So if you really need to be in there, you can get a seat. In addition, it requires these government bodies to also use a larger meeting room if they have one available on site when they reasonably anticipate a larger crowd. Open meetings are meaningless if you can't get into them. SB 1009, Criminal Damage Monuments. This is a bill that I thought was inspired by the riots that went across our country a couple of years ago during the Black Lives Matter demonstrations morphing into riots. Many people damaged and toppled the statues of historical figures or historical event memorization statues. That's wrong. Look, some of those statues might be from people who the public might want the statue removed, but a mob shouldn't do that. If people want a statue removed, they should go to the elected officials that dictate that area and say remove the statue. A mob doesn't tear it down. So this bill simply makes it a more serious level of criminal damage to damage or destroy a monument to a person or an event. Finally, we have SB 1038, Probate Advisory Panel establishment. Probate, of course, is when a person, child or adult, can't care for themselves and the court appoints somebody to act in their behalf. It's a complicated procedure and there can be abuses in it. So because of the complexity, we're going to set up a study panel of all the interested parties, advocates for people who are under probate, lawyers, court personnel, to try to sit down and make the laws fairer and more transparent. And then we had SB 1085, time limitation DUI prosecutions. The prosecutors approached me and they said they had a problem when they had a drunk driving prosecution where the driver also injured or killed somebody. Because in such cases, the drunk driving becomes a minor charge, with the major charge being manslaughter if the person they hit died, or a serious assault charge if they were injured. These are complicated cases, and they often take a long time to get all the facts together, the studies, the accident reconstruction. So some of these deadlines for filing prosecution cases were passed before the prosecutors were ready to proceed. So they said, can we have an extension in these cases? So this bill simply says, if it's a DUI involving death or injury, instead of the 1 year limit on starting the prosecution, they have an additional year to get the case ready. And this is important because you don't want a rushed prosecution, which might not be fair to the defendant, nor you do want the time limit to lapse and have somebody who should be prosecuted not be prosecuted. So anyway, those are the bills that are progressing through the system this week. I have more bills coming next week. The session is far from over, and we haven't done the biggest issue, which is the budget, which we're still working on and is always a monumental task. And finally, I was the guest on KAET Horizon Public Affairs TV show yesterday, where I discussed what's happened in the legislature with their host. So if you go onto the computer and Google in KAET Horizon, you should be able to see my appearance pop up, and you can click that link and hear more of me. So till next week, this is State Senator John Kavanagh, Kavanaugh's Corner, signing off. Thanks for watching.